I've been thinking a lot about the passage of time recently. I even made a habit of seeing people's ages, How old was a person when they did such a thing? And what does it mean to be a specific age at a specific time? Trust me, that sounds a lot more complicated than it really is. You see, I recently watched both The Owl House and Star vs. the Forces of Evil. Both are very nice cartoons and I will definitely make a video about them. But what caught my attention was the age of the protagonists. They are both 14. However, and this is where I want to get to, one is 14 years old in 2015 and another is in 2020. So what does it mean to be the same age at different times? Because the world changed a lot from 2015 to 2020, not to mention more drastic cases. One cartoon that I like a lot is Hey Arnold. In it, the characters are 9 years old, but they are 9 years old in 1996. Along with this, I've been thinking about the need to change over time, from what we have to do, as well as what we have to stop doing. Did Arnold, Star, and Luz continue to be who they are over the years? What did Arnold stop or start doing in his adult life? What did you and I stop or start doing over the years? Okay, there's some social rules, and I put very big quotes on the word rules here, that say what we should do or can't do anymore when we grow up, when we are 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, or even 70 years old. But hey, who dictates these rules? Who reinforces them? How right or good are these rules? I don't mean here that we should go back to our infancy or use art as escaping from adult life, but rather that we shouldn't necessarily lose something. I recently played 2 games that made me think a lot about it, about maintaining, even over the years, a vision and relation with the world not unlike that which is present when one is young and how that can be, let's say, healthy. And nothing better than start with one of the biggest stereotypes of child play: building a world using what you can find around the house. There's a very cool map of Counter-Strike, called Rats, which takes the fight against terrorism to the last frontiers: bathrooms, kitchens, and drawers. There's something really fun about being in environments that we see every day, but with a new perspective. Right away, Supraland delights those who play using something that for me, and from what I can see, for many other people, is charming. The idea of being in extremely common places, but in the perspective of something tiny. Well, the whole game takes place in a small sandbox, and you have the perspective of an equally small toy person. So, branches, shovels, and pieces of other toys gain impossible dimensions. And it is worth mentioning how beautiful everything is. The game uses very well the graphic engine that runs it and gives the visual quality. The buildings and objects in the game can be, at the same time, as real as they are exaggerated. The beauty of seeing real objects with absurd proportions and working almost like monuments in the game world makes you want to explore, only to find out what else the game holds. However, the beauty of the game goes far beyond its looks. You see, Supraland has a comically simple story. Our protagonist, the Prince of the Red People, has to go to the Blue Kingdom and fix their water supply. And that's all. There are no big twists and no moral lessons with complex characters. The game doesn't need that. Just like kids having fun, the focus here is not why you do something, but what you do. And the game that best represents Supraland is, well, Metroid Prime, with a seasoning of Portal and Zelda Breath of the Wild sauce. While the prince explores a large, but never too large, interconnected world, he discovers and buys new skills that allow him to interact with the game in previously unimaginable ways. Instead of, so this new skill opens that kind of door, the game brings moments of, whoa, I had no idea this would be possible. For example, a particular item causes various types of gates and metal structures, which, according to nature's will, originally block your progress, to become new paths. So, in a way, the sandbox is not only visible in the game world, but also in the gameplay, since the game can be defined as sandbox, as it gives us considerable freedom to solve the challenges however we see fit. There are several ways to explore and fight, even if the combat is secondary to the exploration, and you are never wrong to choose one form or another, you will just be right, but in a different way. Sometimes, instead of rewarding progress with a skill, the game reveals that an element that we have been using throughout the journey can be interacted in a different fashion, showing how responsive and well thought out the game is. I could even devote a moment to talk about the puzzles, but they are so connected to the exploration that the two can very well be considered one thing, besides being equally well made. The game teaches a lesson on how to build puzzles. Instead of being too mysterious or giving the answer in a silver tray, the game wisely created a character whose sole purpose is to stand before the places where the puzzles are to tell you whether or not you have all the skills necessary to solve it. If you don't, come back later. If you do, you can rest assured that the answer will be there, somewhere. You just need to find or create your own way to it. There is a really cool moment when this NPC is in front of a puzzle and shares a mysterious message. Something like, let's see for a part of the 90%. If you can't solve the puzzle and talk to him again, he will say that 90% of players arriving at this stage of the game forget that a certain skill, which you already have, can be used for a not very obvious end. Oh, and the game has no map. It doesn't need it. And neither do you. You don't know where to go? Talk to an NPC or pay attention to the scenario. But honestly, your curiosity and willingness to explore will be your greatest guides. Now, a friendly advice. It may be that, at the very end, you get stuck in a puzzle that is a little bit complicated. The answer, or rather, a part of it, is a fart. That's all I'm saying. Anyway, Supraland is a brilliant game. A game that wants to make you feel as smart solving it as its creator was when creating it. And for our conversation, it's a game that encourages us to look at the little things around us in the same way that a child sees the smallest and most irrelevant objects, with gigantic possibilities. This ability to allow oneself to be inspired and charmed by small and ordinary things is something very powerful. It's something that can be felt throughout the game and can, better, should, guide our vision and way of interacting with our surroundings. But let's be honest, that's a lot of work. You can't, always and all the time, make great or expensive creations. Sometimes we just want to enjoy ourselves and have fun. Sometimes we just want to make a mess. Or rather, solve one.
Katamari Damacy.
How to explain Katamari Damacy? Well, it's not that hard, it's just different. You see, all the games in the franchise take us to ordinary and common places, like houses, neighborhoods, and small towns. In these environments, we control the Prince of the Cosmos, a very small character who pushes a ball called Katamari, with the aim of turning it into a star at the end of the stage. Still with me? Amazing! As this Katamari rolls, it sticks everyday objects to its body and gradually gets bigger. In some cases, much bigger. What is interesting is the scale that the game adopts. At the beginning of most levels, almost everything is much larger than the Katamari. Shoes, milk cartons, and garbage cans seem, at the beginning of a round, impossible objects to be overcome. But a while and lots of day-to-day junk later, the Katamari can be transported through the stage without the fear of being pushed around by moving objects. With a little more progress, computers, animals, children, and other items that set the stage could be part of your relentless celestial ball. And in the end, the Prince will push a creation as colossal as it is undescribable, made up of people, buildings, giant creatures, and of course, shoes, milk cartons, and garbage cans. In case you haven't played anything like that, it might sound a little bizarre, and to tell you the truth, even having played something like that, it never ceases to be bizarre. But it's amazing how everything in the game collaborates to create a cheerful and pleasant atmosphere, starting with the songs, which honestly are all amazing and manage to put in the mood that the stage wants to convey, which is usually happy. Seriously, do yourself a favor and look here on YouTube for the soundtrack for this game. You'll not regret. Like, listen to this. Another fundamental point, perhaps even the most important, is the art and graphics. You see, Katamari Damacy has no pretense of being or looking realistic, but it doesn't mean that there is an absurd amount of detail in the many, oh so many, objects in the levels. There's a visible care and affection in all things, whether they are big or small. Whether through the drawings or the words written in the smallest bottles and boxes, or on the billboards at the top of large buildings, you realize that the team behind this game, especially its designer, Keita Takahashi, has a great skill, seeing beauty in banal things. Not unlike what happens in Supraland, only that, while in that game the perspective was always small, here you can see the world from both above and below. This charm exists in everything, even the menus, which are small planets in which you need to walk up to the options. Or even the options of saving progress, which are the letters that form the name of the developer, Namco. And I'm serious when I say that this game carries with it a beauty of the ordinary. So much so that Katamari Damacy was included in the Museum of Modern Art in New York for making everyday objects in a fantastic way. As much as the stages are very arcadey, in the sense of being much more focused on gameplay and to solve the challenge in the time needed, the union of soundtrack, art, graphics, and climate in general contributes to environments that are simply pleasant to be in. And since you are here for the naked and cold truth, I'm not going to hide anything. I'm a big fan of the Katamari franchise. Yes, franchise, because it has many games. I've always had the desire to make a video about the Katamari saga. The only problem, or rather the peculiarity of these games, is that they are all very similar. But yes, the notion of games in the same saga being similar is normal. Technically, the games in the Wolfenstein franchise, which you can see here in the channel, are very similar. The same goes for many other games. The thing is, from one game to another, there are very few changes in the way you play and in the structure. The themes, or rather, the theme is the same throughout the saga. What changes is the plot of each iteration, and I don't consider it so relevant for what Katamari is. And since we mentioned themes, let's talk about the thematic of the game. Because yes, this game has interesting themes and is not here in this video for nothing. As you can see from the gameplay, the environments are full of things, overcrowded. And those are things that you and I, the people, don't need, and especially in an amount that we don't need. The game may even be an exaggerated caricature of rampant consumption, but it's not an incorrect one. In the world which we live in, things are acquired as quickly and often as they are discarded, for the simple pleasure and social obligation to consume. However, Katamari presents the question, what if we do not discard what we have acquired? Not in the sense of recycling or anything like that, but if things just got dumped, accumulating and taking up space. And in this world, which is a reflection of ours, there is a prince, which, carrying the titular Katamari, cleans the world of these unnecessary excesses and recreates something beautiful from it, stars and constellations. From this perspective, Katamari Damacy is a power fantasy focused on the fight against consumerism. Not to mention that there is also the aspect that the levels of the game, which always begin as chaotic environments, crowded and with distant people, end up, in a way, united in the great collective that is this great sticky ball of love. It may seem like I'm overreacting here, but everything I've presented so far is in interviews with the creator of the franchise. And honestly, it's not a very hard thing to see when we play. If I can make a weird comparison, there's a painter that I like a lot, Johannes Vermeer. He's done a lot of really cool paintings and I recommend you take a look later. The interesting thing is that Jojo lived a busy life in a busy place, full of people and movement. However, his works represent pleasant, harmonic and quiet moments. I like to think that Joe created the world he wanted to see. Just like I like to think that Takahashi also created the world he wanted to see. And throughout Katamari Damacy, we can live in this world, even for a little while. A world which, regardless of your age, you, like me, can perfectly have fun in a way that, incorrectly in my opinion, we say is only for children. Knocking down and sticking things, in a fun and simple way. Now, what is not at all simple is how you can play these games. The only one easily accessible is the one you're seeing during our conversation, the Katamari Damacy Reroll, which is nothing more than a high-resolution version of the first game, which was released way back when, in 2004. And when I say it's nothing more, I mean it. So much so that the game tells you to always remember to manually save your progress, because it will not do it automatically. All the other games, with their unique stages and improvements in character mobility, are stuck on their original platforms, including my favorite version, Katamari Forever, that just came out for the PS3, which is essentially a high-definition collection of levels from across the franchise. But in spite of everything, the fact that the only game available is the first one, in a form virtually identical to the original, demonstrates the timeless quality of the work. Just as the act of playing and admiring the little things never gets old, Katamari Damacy doesn't either. One of the many things I like about games is their ability to vividly represent anything we imagine. You know that kind of comment? Wow, it really looks like I'm in a war. Or, sis, you feel like you're actually flying a plane. That's what I'm talking about. But, especially, games are able to give life to what never happened, what was only imagined. Have you ever played with toy cars? You don't play with cars simulating exactly how you drive properly in real life. You take the car and make it go down an absurd path in the furniture in your home or on toy tracks. So, that's exactly what the Hot Wheels expansion in Forza Horizon 3 seeks to recreate. Similarly, Supraland presents, in an immersive and interactive way, the impossible worlds that existed, and I hope they still exist, in our imagination. Or how Katamari Damacy recreates the act of having fun making a mess. Well, actually, cleaning one. I'm not saying here that these games are good or have something special because they are nostalgic. We're not talking about nostalgia and remembering something that's been left in the past. We're talking about not losing this something, about keeping within ourselves a tenderness and innocence that are not weakness or a form to escape reality. These values are able to help us see the world and each other in a way more interesting. They are able to inspire us to create something, to help us find joy in small moments and things, and, in my equally small opinion, to make us better people. At least, that's what I think. Supraland and Katamari Damacy are very good and are available in almost all the Place games. If you can, I recommend you give them a try. Another thing, I'd love if you could leave a comment and subscribe here on the channel. But again, only if you feel like it. Thank you so much for watching, I mean it.